within India, the workforce is only 35% women.
That's fresh on my mind because we just finished the second version of the Wings of Wonder.
Any mother who has taken a career break from the workforce, that she may be able to come back into the workforce in as comprehensive a program as this.
We understood what was a true concern, and that is what is the outcome of Fly Again.
This is a beautiful, like you've mentioned, the magic happens.
You need to create demand and the supply will follow. And that's what we work at.
Before joining Airbus, there is the investment. After joining Airbus, there is an investment.
So it's not only HR, but it is business with HR that works wonders at Airbus.
Inspiring the future with purpose is going to be one of the key anchors behind the way that top employers move in the direction.
With the teamwork that we have at Airbus, we make it possible, like Tom Cruise does in each of the Mission Impossible movies.
Welcome everyone to the Top Employers APAC podcast, where we explore ideas and perspectives for a better world of work. I'm Livia, your host for today, and I have the privilege of having Suraj Chettri from Airbus India to join us. Suraj is the Vice President and Head of HR for India, as well as South Asia, I understand. And I believe in his spare time, you also double head as the Bangalore site lead. Is that right?
Yes, I do, and thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you. It's a privilege really to have you with us today. Suraj, I'm very, very delighted that today we are chatting about the India talent hiring landscape. And as well, I understand some of your team could be joining us to talk about Airbus India's investment in building a sustainable talent pipeline, not just for today, but also for your future needs. So really, I think to kick things off, again, today, very excited to be here in the beautiful Airbus India office, smack in the middle of Bangalore, not just a hotbed of hiring for India, but also for Asia Pacific. And with that, I think we have seen very ambitious, aggressive projections from LinkedIn saying that in India, we will have plus 20% hiring growth in India itself. So with that, that comes with talent challenges, not just for the talent landscape, but also for top employers like yourself. So I'm really curious, what are some of your views on the overall India talent landscape at the moment?
I think, Livia, you've pointed it out very correctly that we've been consecutively for the past few years in a boom of hiring talent. And I can, without disclosing numbers, I can tell you it's much more than 20% for us at Airbus India. But, you know, the talent landscape is crazy, but at the same time, it's magical. And all you need is technology at the back end to harness this beautiful, crazy talent pipeline that we are looking at. They are highly dynamic. That makes it even more difficult for organizations. But I think what we need to do is go where the talent is today. If you're expecting that you're going to be out there and the talent is going to come to you, I think that's where you lose most of your battle in hiring the best in the world. And just thinking forward, many a times I see that organizations want the best of talent without sometimes knowing what they are looking for.
Absolutely.
And that causes a problem because I hear many a times, oh, there's a lot of talent there, millions of people, graduates are coming out, but I'm not getting those people. I think probably we need to see what we are looking at even before we venture out. And what I mean by this is I very strongly believe that if you can set up the demand, rightfully so, and with the help of your, I would say, brand image, your EVP, your employees as ambassadors, and the right technological channels, if you can broadcast your demand out there, I think definitely supply will follow. because the universities, the colleges, the ecosystem is ready and busy to understand what is industry looking at. And of course, once you have this, I believe that you don't follow the best practices that are there, but create something new and be the trailblazer for setting things up on the recruitment ecosystem.
That's beautifully put. Thank you so much for sharing that. There are so many things I want to pick apart in what you have just said. But let's start with what you have mentioned earlier, where you spoke about the difficulties in first understanding what do you need before you actually put that message out to market about your hiring demand. And I think it was from Deloitte where I had seen that 3/4 of organizations, yes, they have a skills framework, but only about 1/4 can really keep them up to date with the evolving business priorities. And I think what we've spoken about as well earlier from today is the way in which the business and HR priorities are so closely integrated as well within Airbus, and that enables you to put out all of these fascinating programs for the talent landscape. So I'm wondering if you can maybe speak a little bit about, how does that work within the Airbus India office?
Yeah, sure. And I think what we've been able to get right today is from the past failures that we have learned from.
You are too humble.
And what we have seen, of course, is that without partnering with business, without business taking the responsibility of where we want to be in the future, what technologies are we going to grow people on, and what is the horizon that they see for the different type of work coming in, I think it will be very difficult for HR to go and run on their own, get the talent, and then you realize business says, this is not what I'm looking for. So what we've tried to do in that front is, of course, we've realized everyone is taking from the ecosystem that is available. So what in our own humble way we are trying to do is bring in different, I would say, perspectives, bring in different people, students into this ecosystem that did not exist earlier. So we've got some great programs that we run. One of the programs we call is Wings of Wonder, which is for the girl child between 10 to 15, that we encourage them to get into STEM. And I think my colleagues will talk about that later. Then we have something called Wonder Hacks, a dedicated women's hiring program. We also do a lot on the front of awareness with the colleges, universities, schools, the ecosystem on what aerospace is all about.
Fantastic.
Fly Again is one of them. Little Engineers is another program. So once we've got this pipeline up and running that does not dry, then we look at external ways of hiring this. In the external ways, a few highlights I can talk about is one is the hackathons that we do, and we call them aerathons, and we just completed the 6th version. And this time, the difference was we went regional in hiring the best IT, or we call them digital talent, for our organization. Not only that, we also run a program called Fly Again, where we encourage women that have taken a break in their career, of course, outside Airbus. They would be encouraged to come into our organization, and we focus it in such a way that it's kind of a development program. As we interview them, we also understand what their individual development plans would be and how within the organization we can support them at different initiatives to bring them back to where the others have come when they were out of work. So these are a couple of things that we talk about. Then what we do is, and I was talking to you about this, Livia, earlier, is we have realized sometimes, and I can put it bluntly, sometimes I get so sick and tired of searching for talent in the traditional places and not being successful, that we have started running our own programs. For customer services, we run an ACE program. For engineering, we run an Airbus Academy program. For the digital folks, we run a digital school. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I think the main theme is that when we hire these people from day one, even in the universities, we exactly tell them where they're going to work with business. So there's a commitment from the business side that they would be absorbed in that particular stream, in that particular technology, in that area of engineering or digital, so that they don't have to wonder where they will land up. So the decision is made from early, and then we run it through the entire organization so that as and when they get matured and developed, as their competencies develop, we are aligned in focusing them to the requirements of the business. Then business doesn't say, I don't need them, because they've been hired by business, for business, groomed by business, for the opportunities that will come in business.
And I think that's very, very powerful, because we see, I think very often when there is a disconnect between what HR sees are the needs versus what business believes are their own needs, that's where you get drips and drabs of programs, stopgap solutions, different DEI programs being run. But like you've said, even HR, talent acquisition, employer branding, everyone can work together to build this wonderful program that builds your top of funnel. But then after they have been maybe 6 months, 12 months through whichever is the design of the program, at the end of the day, they're looking for a long-term opportunity in your organization, right? And I think that's where this is a beautiful, like you've mentioned, the magic happens. Because when you have business buy-in right from the beginning to design the criteria, to design what's going to happen to this talent pool, then they have a future, you can lay out the plans. Clearly, the organization is committed to developing them, and it's all seamless end to end. So I think that, to me, that is one of the things that really helps Airbus to stand out in this market.
Yeah, but we do have challenges also, because when we are working on bringing in talent, diversity is one aspect that will come into the picture. And what we've realized in engineering and in aerospace, the feed itself is not there. So what are we doing as Airbus to ensure that feed gets generated? And we talked a little bit about that through the STEM programs, where we encourage the girl child to come into, engineering. But over and above that, what we've tried to do is we've tried to tie up with the IITs in India, the 4 of them which does aerospace, and see if we can sponsor women to do their masters in aerospace, in mechanical, in the allied branches, and then see if we can increase the pipeline for ourselves. So that's one. The other one, now the other challenge that we have is how do we grow them into leadership positions when they come in? And we're just working on a concept called She Leads. And that program has 6 petals that we work upon. So you come in, and it's common for the whole organization in Airbus India. You come in, do stuff together, you go back to your respective departments, and then you work on specific projects and programs. Then you come together, and it's kind of a journey that takes you across the 1 year, whereby with the support of business, we can accelerate this learning and this development for the women leadership pipeline within our organization.
And that's such a salient point. I also had that in the back of my mind, but I'm glad that you went there, because we are also, I think, well aware that within India, the workforce is only 35% women. But I think you mentioned earlier in aerospace, it's even less. I think it was 16 to 18% as well, you mentioned.
Yes.
So, what a pain point. And I think if we then look into the leadership bench, I think that creates a totally different dimension of this issue. So, I'm very, very excited to hear more. I would also love to hear more about those specific programs that makes Airbus India a trailblazer in this market. But shall we maybe get some of your team to come and share a little bit more?
I'd love to. I'm only the spokesperson for my team. My team does all the work, and probably we could start with Praveen Woona.
Yep.
The many hats that he wears. One of them is the head of employment marketing for us, and probably he could showcase and talk a little bit about the Fly Again program that we've got. We've got about what now 6th or 7th year running. Plus, he could also talk about the Wings of Wonder that we do with the kids around in Bangalore, because that's fresh on my mind, because we just finished the second version of the Wings of Wonder here at Airbus India.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Praveen, for coming and joining us. I'm really, really glad to have you and very, very excited for you to come and share, I believe, more about the Fly Again program and the Wings of Wonder program. Very, very inspirational names, and I can't wait to hear more.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me here. I would say Top Employers is a great platform, sharing all the best practices. While I speak about Fly Again, I still remember this program has come into inception in 2019. I always say this story where it took us 9 months to curate the whole program. Why? The whole story started about creating a returnee program because there was true requests from the ground. But while we did that, we said, okay, how do we make this program really unique, keeping the women returnees at the center of the heart? We spoke to a lot of companies who are already running these programs. We spoke to a lot of returnees who are aspiring to come back. We understood what was the true concern, and that is what is the outcome of Fly Again.
Tell me about the true concern, because I think it touched on what we discussed earlier.
Sure. So many a times, I can give you a couple of examples, but one of them is that many programs in the market were truly supporting the women careers to come back to to restart the career. But apparently, what happens is that they are training programs which enable them to go back to work. But apparently, after that, they still have to find a job and a career for themselves. But what we decided in Airbus in India is that Fly Again is something which is just not a training program, it's a journey. It's a 6 to 9 months long journey, depending on the job profile and so on and so forth. Like Suraj was mentioning, it's a development program. And there are a couple of things which were given as a feedback from the returnees that even after getting a job in an organization, what they were looking forward is that respect, which was at the core. So we said, okay, this is also something which has to be taken care of. So we were putting up checkpoints to ensure that there is equity at every part, be it is in the compensation, be it is in the job role, be it is in the trainings and development programs, and so on and so forth. I think this is what has made Fly Again a unique program, and very happy that it is well recognized outside by in the form of coveted awards or by organizations.
That's amazing. And tell me a little bit about, I think you've mentioned Fly Again has started in 2019. How has it grown to today?
So it's been almost 5 years we have launched the program right now. And every year we have dedicated recruitment events to onboard Fly Again candidates. And we have a very systematic orientation program to onboard them and induct them. So now what makes it really successful within the organization is that all the leaders, all the employees are part of this moment, and they really contribute that. And indeed, how we do it is, even before we onboard the Fly Again employees, we do a lot of work before that by sensitizing our employees, sensitizing our managers on how important it is to onboard the women returnees in the right manner, so that they feel comfortable and they feel recognized.
Last question on this one. I know I'm asking a lot of questions, but I'm genuinely curious. Can you tell me a little bit more about how your employees and the managers get involved in the program? What are they set out to do? And I swear that is the last question before we move on to the next program.
No worries. You can ask me more questions on this. So the moment the program starts, the first thing what we do is that, are we really having a job description which is created like every day? It's not just because of the Flygen program as such, or it's not an internship or a training program.
Yep.
Point number one. And then what we do is that even before the people are onboarded and so on and so forth, what we also try to do from our side is, for all the candidates who are going through the selection process, we try to put efforts to help them, guide them, prepare for the interview process.
Oh, wow. Right.
That's the problem, where they have taken a gap and they might have lost touch with the industry. So we understand that.
Interview coaching, resume coaching.
Yes. So in certain cases, we also try to see if we can give a week or 10 days of mentoring within the organization through someone, so that they are able to unleash their potential in the interview itself.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. And once they are onboarded after the interview, in the selection process and everything, so we have a very systematic way of onboarding them. We have a brochure which is prepared in-house, which we give them, which will portray the complete activities, what they have to do for the next 6 to 9 months, depending on the job role they are coming in. And the best part is that every Flygen candidate is allocated with a mentor from the Management Board of India, so that they feel really confident about the entire program, and they can go back to their mentor to ask if they need some help or some kind of coaching suggestions and stuff. So once they are onboarded, they are put across training programs, they're put across leadership development programs if there is any need, depending on the job profile and portfolio. Sometimes we also take the opportunity to send them to our final assembly lines and our central offices in Europe, so that they can get a little bit on the business upskilling and build up connections there and come back.
I'm going to put it on my personal wish list. Any mother who has taken a career break from the workforce, that she may be able to come back into the workforce in as comprehensive a program as this. That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And so when it comes to the Wings of Wonder program, would you like to share a little bit more about that and the different talent segment that it's for?
Absolutely. So Wings of Wonder program is something which is very close to all of our hearts. And like Suraj was mentioning, this we have finished our second chapter this year, recently, just before a few days. In the previous year, we had around 17 odd students, and this year we have around 19 odd students. So this is a 5-day of program. I call it as industry exposure program. But what happens in this 5-day? So the net output, what we are looking at is that these students get a clarity of what STEM looks like. These students get a clarity of what aerospace as an industry look like.
And how old are they when they join your program?
So the criteria for this program is someone between class 6 to class 10th, because apparently you make decisions before class 10th, right? Whether you want to choose STEM or some other stream.
You're starting them very early. I think just to clarify for our listeners, I think class 6 to class 10 here is the ages of about 10 to 15.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's true. And once they are in the program, they are very actively involved for the 5 days. And it's very diverse. They spend one day at Airbus office with all our employees, exploring different departments, knowing more about Airbus, knowing more about aerospace as an industry. But then they also have to take a decision on how the academics work. Thanks to our great academic partnerships we have with...
They're young.
Yes.
But that's true. I think nowadays we make a lot of big decisions when we are very young.
Yeah. So we have academic partnerships locally with IISc Bangalore and RVC Bangalore. So thanks to them, they have partnered with us, and they are supporting us quite a bit on Wings of Wonder program. So the students get an opportunity to spend each day, one at IIC and one day at RVC. So they get to exposure. They get exposure to all the labs. They get exposure to all the classes. Get exposure to the kind of courses they would be part of if they're part of aerospace and so on and so forth. And it's quite exciting to see these young students when they get into a wind tunnel testing lab or they get into a drone lab and so on. And just not the exposure to the academics, we also take them to our supplier partner. Like recently, we took our second batch to Dynametics Technologies, where they get a full day exposure working closely with our supplier partners, trying to figure out how the final assembly line works, trying to see how the manufacturing line is structured, and how this small part, one of the million parts, gets into the bigger aircraft.
You even help them understand the Airbus business model. Now I'm very envious.
You will be amazed to know that I feel very ignorant when I speak to them.
Once again, I'm sure you are too humble. I'm beginning to see this as a trend in the Airbus culture. But beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to ask you a very, very tricky question. And now, with these two programs, the targeted audience is completely different. One for returning mothers, and one as well for the young girls and children looking at their future career path. If you were to look at anything in between, right? Because now we've got two very different age brackets. Is there anything in between that Airbus has for sort of the interim, the interim age group? Or is that something that, maybe one of your other colleagues can share about?
No, of course. So I will let Shishir, who is the HR business leader for Bangalore location,
Okay.
to speak about it. We have wonderful programs which are very much customized to the job profiles, which is addressing. So these programs are built very innovatively. So I'll let Shishir speak about this.
You have everything end to end. I don't know what you don't have. Shall we welcome Shishir to share a little bit more?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Praveen. Thank you so much, Shishir, for joining us. And I'm so sorry for the musical chairs that we're trying to organize today. But I'm very glad that we have a chance to speak to so many of you. And please tell me a little bit more about some of the programs that you have to have talent to be industry ready when they join Airbus.
Absolutely. And as my colleagues have talked about, specifically Suraj talked about, you need to create demand and the supply will follow. And that's what we work at. Typically, you will hear a lot of people say that India has 1.5 million students, engineers coming out every year. And yet, you don't have people who are employable.
And yet the talent war rages on.
Exactly. And that's where we come in. We looked at the problem. And like you have realized by now, we design a lot of programs that make sense and works for us. So what did we do? We always follow the principles of design thinking and include all our stakeholders in designing a program. So we brought in people from business. We brought in people who came new from universities. We brought in people who are training those people internally. And we brought in also our supply chain and looked at collectively, where do we miss? What do we need to do to make these people, young graduates, or even graduates with few years of experience, make them better utilized, better equipped for Airbus and also for our supply chain. And that's when we created these programs customized for each business group.
Okay.
We did early career program ACE for customer service. We created digital schools for our digital programs, like key skills like cybersecurity and full stack developer, which is not easily available. And for engineering, where they needed core aerospace knowledge, we started something called Airbus Academy. And what do? We get these people from industry, freshers or with 2 to 4 years experience, bring them at Airbus. Now, not just bring them, the business trains them on their own need. And like Suraj was saying, it is business who's teaching them on what they want, the way they want, the processes. And then once they are ready, based on our needs in different area, they are the succession for the people that we need in different level at the entry points. And that's what we have been plugging the gaps there. Now there are people who are ready, but we do not have that kind of opportunity immediately, or there are still some gaps. We share these profiles also with our suppliers, the supply chain, who are in turn working for Airbus, and they also need these kinds of talents who are trained by Airbus. So we fill that gap by using these programs that we have at this level.
Lovely. And this is a way in which the Airbus investment builds the entire aerospace ecosystem all around you.
Exactly.
Phenomenal. Can you share, please, a little bit more about the difference I think you mentioned between the digital school as well as the Airbus Academy? How is the target audience a little bit different, and how do these programs work?
Exactly. So digital school, we look at high-end technology area, which is big in demand. So you need people, let's say in cybersecurity, which everyone is looking at today. And it's not easy to get a person who is absolutely ready for you. So we look at bright students from universities, and we engage with our business to select these right people. So we look at people who have right background, they understand programming, the fundamentals very well, and then we bring them in at Airbus. Once they are in, we spend time with them. It is anywhere between 3 to 6 months wherein we train them and make them ready on the areas that we want them to work on. Once they are ready, we integrate them with the teams. So that's how the work in the digital area works. Now coming to aerospace, wherein you need much more deeper understanding and it takes time. We look at people with some amount of experience,
Okay.
coming with mechanical or aerospace background and worked in relevant industry, let's say automobile or aerospace. And then we bring them in, we train them. So there is a dedicated mentor for each team. So again, here we did not put people in a generic bucket, but they are tied to a particular department where they are recruited for. They get trained on the technology that they will be working on. And once they are trained, the investment is done from Airbus. We again evaluate where they would fit most. And these experienced people also get integrated likewise.
I love it because there is clearly a seamless segue from before joining Airbus, there is the investment. After joining Airbus, there is an investment. There is clear development. And I think it really speaks to the entirety of what you have that contributes to the phenomenally low attrition rate that you have.
It has been traditionally in and around 3. Hopefully this year it will be even below 3. And that's what we aim for.
Very, very remarkable. I remember I was shocked when I first heard this statistic, especially in the India market when it's so intense, the talent competition. But thank you so much, Shishir, for sharing. And I think I really, really appreciate as well that you've gone into this level of detail for all of the programs. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suraj, thank you so much for having both yourself and your team to come on board. I'm very, very glad we had the privilege to speak with all of you today. Now, I think we have heard a lot about the range of all the different programs that Airbus has in developing and investing in talent. I'm very curious. A lot of this looks like outward investment, but I am also sure that there is a deep internal impact for your own employees. And I'm just wondering, what does that kind of impact look like?
No, you're right. I think as we work towards growing the competencies of employees within the organization, it also gives the employees internally within the organization this opportunity to contribute to the larger success of the organization. You would have realized that we work very closely with business. Everything that we do starts and ends with business. And had I to do it on my own without the support of business would have been impossible. Most of the effort and the load is taken by these employees that are passionate, are engaged. And I can give you one example of, say, for example, Praveen talked about Wings of Wonder.
Yeah.
The employees themselves curate the entire day program that they have at Airbus to decide what they want to tell these kids about that will leave a long lasting impact upon them for the future to come. So, this way, the employees internally gain a lot of confidence. They gain the assurance that, yes, they are not only doing work here, but they are also contributing to a larger purpose. And what happens is, in the long run, their own abilities and skills of coaching, mentoring, leadership gets honed because we involve them actively in all the activities that happens. And we have various resource groups in diversity, in sports, in cultural activities, in things like that we talked about that support us in a big way to make this successful. So it's not only HR, but it is business with HR that works wonders at Airbus.
That's a beautiful, beautiful partnership. And I think it also ties in very nicely with one of our top employers' trends in 2024 in the world of work, where we identified that inspiring the future with purpose is going to be one of the key anchors behind the way that top employers move in the direction. And I do believe as well that this is something very, very powerful, also connecting back to that phenomenal attrition rate of round about 3%. It really speaks to how you engage your own employee pool for the Airbus purpose. Would you like to speak a little bit about, what that purpose is in terms of the company statement?
I think before that, Livia, you pointed out an aspect of the top employers, the survey, and what we do with you all. And I think the value we get from this exercise is tremendous. And I will tell you why. Because many a times, in our rush to do things, we do not get that opportunity to stand, look at a higher perspective, and understand where have we come in this journey, what have we done that works, what have we done that does not work. And having this interaction with you all that have this repository and understanding of top employers globally gives us that perspective. Then we can understand ourselves. And many a times answering the questions itself rings a bell and says, that is something that we've not thought about. That is something I think we should do. And when you organize these regional top employer get-togethers, we also learn from the other organizations of what they are good at. And end of the day, it, I think, elevates the entire ecosystem within the industry, thanks to the work that you all do.
Thank you so much for saying that. That really means a lot. And I think it's beautiful also, as you've mentioned, it goes both ways, where your teams, I think earlier I was just speaking with Caleb when he said that he puts in a lot of time and investment to pull in all of the documentation and all of the evidence in order to share with our auditors and our teams what are some of the areas in which Airbus India has improved year on year. And I think to me it's also a mark of an organization that is hungry to do better every single year, where you would like to go and look at where are the areas of strength, where are the areas that you want to work on, like you've mentioned, always in line with business priorities, and assess strategically where are you going to put your focus. Because every year, your HR practices are going to look different, your employee experience is going to look different. And every year, even programs like we have just talked about, they evolve. And they mean something different for your employees. And I'm very glad that we can support you in that.
And of course, I didn't answer your question on the employee side. And I think it's what drives them to work every day is the passion for aerospace. And that's what we want to look at early in the careers, even before they've got into their careers, even before they've got into their education. And that's what we look at. Because then when you come into our organization and you work with what we have got as a vision, then you can do wonders. So when they come in, they get joined together in the vision to pioneer sustainable aerospace for a safe and united world. That's their passion, and that's what keeps them coming day after day, year after year, and I'd say decades after decades.
Amen to that. Thank you so much for
Amen.
sharing. Thank you for sharing, Suraj. That was priceless. What I would love to do is now we always like to close our podcast with a fun segment. Today is going to be quite light and easy, I would say. Nothing too heavy, just a personal opinion round of questions. So I've got a couple here. Now, maybe just the first thing that comes to mind, right? What do you think Airbus employees enjoy about coming into the office?
I know it's not food.
Really, is it not food?
No, it's not. I know it's not the other things, but I think just the passion to make a difference, like I talked about earlier, is what drives them to work every day. That passion to do something that would leave a mark in the aerospace industry for the future to come. I think that's what drives them.
And I'm beginning to also get a sense of the family vibe within the office itself. Would you like to share a little bit more about that? I have the sense that I think Airbus employees have a very, very strong sense of connection and integration with one another, kind of over and above the work relationships.
I think that's critical and important at the same time, because what we've been together when attrition rates are so low, you have folks that have been at the start of the organization working 16 years with us, and very few move out to other organizations. And even if they move out, we've had folks through our Boomerang program come back and keep in touch with us, of course, and come back and share the experiences. And many a times they have said that family bonding or togetherness, which of course we don't do too much from the organization side for that, but I think that has been generated and created that makes them feel that we are all together in a family. And when one wants to move out, probably there is tough challenges from their spouses and their families who have got so integrated with everyone that they don't want to move outside this ecosystem. And I think, yes, but we also do, probably for another time, we would talk about all the focus of all the benefits that we have and all the other things that we do is targeted towards the family, because we do realize, and I can give you a case in point, when we did COVID, we did many organizations did vaccinations for different employees, many covered employees and spouses. But in India, we realized that when you're at home, you have not only your kids, your family, but you also have your parents staying with you. So just vaccinating a few because they are employees of Airbus and not the others did not make sense. And we went out to do it for everyone who is staying together there. So things like that, when we look at stuff, we look at the family concept rather than just looking at the individual where the needs stop.
It's very nice because we look at the way in which your talent investment programs contribute to the ecosystem around you in the exact same way where you focus down on the individual level, and Airbus invests in the family ecosystem to support an individual to be successful and to grow. So phenomenal work. But now I have more difficult questions for you. Sorry, fun, I didn't say difficult. If we imagine Airbus India was a famous personality, anyone in the world you would like to pick, past, present, or future, who would it be and why?
That's a tough question because I don't think so. Any one person would embody the ethos and the value that Airbus carries. But what comes off my mind is Tom Cruise. He understands our products in a much better way than the other actors or actresses in the industry because he's worked with many of our products, from the defense side, from the helicopters, in the different Mission Impossible
Oh, my word.
movies that he has done. And in a kind of a way, everything that we set out to do at Airbus is kind of a Mission Impossible at the start. But with the teamwork that we have at Airbus, we make it possible, like Tom Cruise does in each of the Mission Impossible movies.
I take my hat off to this response. Truly, I'm going to remember this one. The Airbus and Tom Cruise connection. Now, one fine day, if we ever get a chance to meet Tom Cruise, please, I would love to mention this. Suraj, if you had the superpower to speed up time, what is one future trend coming soon to HR that you would like to see come sooner?
You say HR, if you would have said technology, I would have said probably Airbus teleportation, but we're not talking about technology there. But on HR, I think today we have a lot that is going on in HR. On the technology side, we have bots, we have chatbots, we have robots, we have artificial intelligence. Ideally, if we could form a synergy of all these together working for the different aspects of, say, employment marketing, hiring, onboarding, training, recruitment, promotion, if all this could be linked together and synergized, I think the value then HR could add would be tremendous. It'll come someday where we will not have to, plug out one wire and push it into another machine, things like that, what we normally do with all our processes in HR. But if they're synced together with the support of technology, I think that would make life wonderful for the function. And probably then, you would ask me the question, then what would HR do? But probably then HR could work on a higher level of awareness, of business acumen, and supporting the business where today, many a times because it's caught up in all these routine, mundane, but important activities, does not have time for.
I cannot even imagine the world in which that happens. But like you said, it's coming, and it's coming soon. It will come within our lifetime. And I love that you went straight to the fact that when that change and that transition comes, will we be prepared for it? And the truth is, maybe not all of us, right? So it actually leads nicely into my next question, where I love to ask our listeners and our guests about what helps you in your HR learning process. Do you have a podcast or a book about the future of the world of work that you would like to recommend to our listeners?
Long ago, I think my whole ambitious journey started with The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. But nowadays, I'm more interested in the fun and the amazing stuff. And I listen a lot to Work Life with Adam Grant. And he's an organizational psychologist that talks about how you can make work not suck. And once you listen to him, you get a completely different perspective of why you're working and what is the value you get out of work.
And like you've mentioned, it means coming to work every day, being happy to be here, and being happy to have that built in together with the rest of your work family as well as your family. Thank you so much for sharing. I would definitely go back and refresh. For anyone who missed it, that was Work Life by Adam Grant. Thank you so much, Suraj. I think it was a pleasure to have you, Praveen, and Shishir with us today. It has been phenomenal. All of you brought a different energy and insight to this podcast. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Big thanks to Suraj, Shishir, and Praveen once again for joining us on today's podcast. And we hope you found something inspiring to take away from today's session. Please don't hesitate to connect with either of us on LinkedIn. I'm sure we're all happy to answer your questions. And don't forget to comment, like, or share this session. All the details are down below in the description. Let's all stay connected for a better world of work, and we'll see you next time.